Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our online workshop, Digital Marketing Foundations. Firstly, thank you for joining us today. My name is Courtney Sandor, and I'm the events coordinator here at Realize Business. Realize Business is a leading social enterprise empowering people to successfully run a business. Through our events, we bring our advisors, presenters, and members together to share their expert knowledge in the interest of helping each other to learn and grow to their highest potential. So we've partnered with the Northern Beaches Council to provide this digital solutions program, and today's workshop is the fifth of the 6 sessions we've brought to you over the past month to help you and your business. So if you haven't already done so, we encourage you to register for the final session, which is everything you need to know about Google My Business, which is occurring next Monday. So we're also providing the opportunity for you to receive one-to-one business advice with one of our business advisors for free through the federal government's ASBAS program. ASBAS Digital Solutions provides small businesses with low-cost, high-quality advice on a range of digital solutions to help them meet their business needs and grow their digital abilities. So if you would like to book in for your session, you can simply call the office, or you can reply back to a thank you email you receive in coming days. So before I pass to the presenter, I'm just going to run through some quick housekeeping points. Please have your sound on mute unless you're speaking. Use the chat box to ask questions and ask questions at any time. Let us know if you're having any audio or video issues. And this session is being recorded, so everyone that registered will receive a copy of this in the thank you email. So now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's presenter, Realize Business Advisor, Jessica Alfonso.
Hello, everyone. It's so good to have you all here. Just looking at people's names, there's some familiar names and a lot of new names today. Now, I would love it, first and foremost, if you guys could come on video. It's just nice to interact with faces. But if not, I also understand you guys have all these different things going on. As a business owner myself, I understand. Hello, who's decided to come online? Hi, nice to see you. So to give you a bit of an introduction about myself, I've been in digital marketing for about 7 years. I started volunteering for a startup that is now a multi-million-dollar company. So I happened to be in the right place and at the right time, because as a 23-year-old that knew nothing about anything, I then was suddenly handed 800,000 of ad spend a month, and I had to learn how to utilize everything and make sure that the return was a positive return on investment. And so it's been a really burning passion of mine to have that happen for small business owners. I've got a soft spot for small business owners. But just to give you a bit of an intro, that's sort of what I've been up to. My strength is in advertising. So anything that's a Google, Facebook ads related, that's sort of what I do. So we can touch into a little bit of that. I touched on a little last week, but I'm happy to expand and talk about it a bit more. But first and foremost, the all-time question, what is digital marketing? It's pretty much marketing yourself online, promoting your products and services, and we'll definitely touch into the different branches. Digital marketing is another, if you imagine a stool, like a 3-legged stool, is just another sort of option for people. It's not the be all and end all, but it's definitely a really good option. I'd love to share some of my success stories. These are with two Nomad Chocolate and French Affair. They're two e-commerce stores that have really boosted their ROI through advertising on Google Ads, and Lisa advertising through Facebook ads as a coach. So it can be very lucrative, and it can also be it can be measurable. And what I love doing is I love doing forecasts and predictions before people go ahead and spend their money, because sometimes even though the business model would be excellent, it's not necessarily reflective on online marketing. So then it would be time to explore other avenues. Why is it important? I mean, it's in this day and age, everything's on social media. People Google you. If you are a cafe owner, people are going to Google you. If you're a hairdresser, they're going to search you online. They're also going to put reviews on social media platforms. So that's the other important thing. And then it's also important to get that exposure, especially if you've got like a very high margin selling good. Sometimes it takes people a couple of touch points before they actually go ahead and decide to purchase something. Now, in digital marketing, there are two strategies. And like in many social media platforms, there's the organic strategy, meaning the free strategy. And then there's the paid strategy. So I can definitely cover a lot of the paid one. The organic one is more to do with like, shares, comments. It's important from a branding perspective, but then if it makes sense it would make sense to complement it with the online strategy, the more straightforward sales with a call to action, buy now or subscribe to the newsletter, anything that gets people closer to making that sale. That's the more sort of paid advertising strategy. And today we're going to look at some paid ads or the back interface as to how they operate. And so I'll be taking you all on a tour on Facebook and Google. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Now, I don't know how many of you have been familiar with these advertising platforms, whether you've gone into the back interfaces yourself and advertised from them. But pretty much this is what it looks like to have an account on Google. Just a disclaimer, what happens if you are looking to set up a Google account, you have to make an ad with them. So they kind of force you to make an ad, but then you can always shut it down and delete it. So it's not a problem. You can make it anytime. They'll ask you for your credit card details. And until you hand them the credit card details, they'll form an account. So just a bit of a heads up with that if you are looking to create an account. And with Google Ads, there's all these different ways that you can advertise. So you can advertise by searching something. So if you are, say, for example, a plumber or something that needs searching, you can make yourself available on search or the map. So if I put in plumber near me, you'll see all the searches come up, and you see this little ad on the left-hand side, meaning that there is an ad. Someone is advertising. So if a person clicks here, they will pay for that click. So it's with Google Ads, it's free to be seen, but then people pay for the click. So that's one way. Another way is with YouTube pre-roll ads. I'm sure lots of you have been searching on YouTube to find out that there is that there's an ad beforehand. That's also done through Google AdWords. There's also Google Shopping. If I put in black shoes, for example, you'll get these options up here on the top. And so that is the Google Shopping interface. So if you've got a product that's particularly visual, Google Shopping is such a great avenue for sales because people see it, and it's free to, that's costed someone a click, but it's generally free to view the product. And then when you want to go into the website to look at it some more, then it's a paid platform. So there's all these different ones. Oh, and then there's also app ones. you know, when you see ads, if you ever play games and you have a look at an ad, that's another option for you as well. So it just depends. But today what we're going to cover is search campaigns. So if I go ahead and I create this new campaign, it'll ask you what you want to achieve. If you are a local store, you can connect it with Google My Business. I know you're going to touch on Google My Business next week, but you can advertise via Google My Business. If you've got an app, you can promote it. If you want to take people to your website, you can do that. Sales as well. You'll need to install a pixel before, so you can track and measure your sales to see whether they're effective or ineffective. And these are brand awareness. So these are more to be seen, to be displayed before people go ahead and buy them. And there's a lot of research that says that if you display your ad and then do a sales campaign, you may convert higher than otherwise not doing it at all, because you need to sort of warm people up to it. And we can touch on that a bit later today. But I'll go and say that I want leads, which would be maybe booking appointments, or if people want to sign into a newsletter, that's also a lead. A lead is pretty much anyone that puts their name, email, and optionally a phone number. And then they'll ask you all these types, which we covered as well. But let's say I'm going for search. But you can click on all these different ones, but we'll go for search because that's pretty much the most self-explanatory. And it'll ask what you'd like to do. So if you want people to call you, you can click on phone calls, put in your phone number. And you can also click for website visits. So I'm just going to put on a website. And then continue. They want a proper number. So I'm just going to go to Australia, put in the number. Okay, just some new updates that they've done. Great. Okay, so you can choose here to have the search network and the display network. The display network is the one that appears on the right-hand column of the page. And that's really useful for anything visual. So I don't know if you guys go on news articles, there's usually something on the right-hand side, and that's an ad. So that's another Google ad. Normally, I don't really like to use these ones because what tends to happen for a lead campaign is that you get a lot of people clicking, but not necessarily converting. And then you choose your location. You can choose even by postcode, or you can go as broad as to all countries or a particular country. But I'm just going to go with Australia. I'm going to put the default in English. I'm going to select the budget. I'm going to say that the budget's about $10, and it's asking what you want to focus on. And I normally put conversions, because if you put conversions, Google will give you conversions. So conversions in this instance is a booking. So you want to go for things like conversions, or the default is going by clicks. And here you can put extensions. A site link extension, I'll show you an example of one. It's kind of like, you know when you go to a shop, to the supermarket, and you have like more of the real estate in a particular product, or a product occupies a larger portion. That's sort of what you're doing with site link extensions. But that's pretty much what it looks like. So you can link to other pages in the website. And if you don't want to click on the, say, the home page, you can click on other pages as well. So it just gives people a bit more options, and Google likes it when you do that. So that's something I'd encourage to do. Call out extensions are little snippets that say maybe free quotes or we deliver today. So that's quite useful. And then call extensions are phone numbers. So if you want people to call you, then they can do so. And then you've got the next step to set up the ad groups. And how it works is you have a particular ad group. They say that the best practice is to get the best practice is to create segments. So say if you sell, if you're a clothing outlet, for example, you could have a t-shirt group, then you could have a dress group, you could have a shoes group. And so you kind of, the idea is to group all the keywords that are similar together. And we can touch on keyword research in a bit, where we will touch on this later in the SEO section. But let's say you put in your keywords, you've put in your ad group, and you're happy with that. Now this step does take a lot of research, but again, I will touch on that. And then the next step would be to create ads. So just something catchy, something that people will relate to. You have, Google recommends that you use 5 different heading options. So you can mix and match whatever option you want and whatever works for you. So if you have something like "we deliver today," then you can choose that. You can choose whatever you want. One thing to be mindful of when you're doing ads on Google is you want to be really strong with your punctuation. No all capitals, no 10 exclamation marks, just being really mindful of that. So you could say something like "come in for a free consultation," or anything that would encourage people to click. And a good idea of something to do is to search for your competitors. So search what they're up to. Say if you are back to the plumber example, then you can say, "oh, see here they put free quote, $0 call out fee." What else have they put? Leading local plumber, book a plumber. Now these are pages that sort of link different plumbers, so they're sort of not included. But one thing I like to do is I like to sort of look at other people's profiles and see what they're typing, and see how you can bring your own flair into your ads, because the more they connect with your customers, ultimately the cheaper they'll be. And at the end, you can add your URL. And once you're happy with that, the ad will go live. So there's quite a bit of pre-planning beforehand. And one really useful thing I like to do is sort of fill these out. Google generally does give you quite good tips. So it is nice when it comes to content to really follow those tips and recommendations. But that's pretty much Google. I know we've covered Facebook a little bit, but I'll touch on that again today. Now, you're normally probably used to seeing a Facebook page like this, right? You've got people, you've got likes, you put content out here. But what I'm going to cover is the advertising platform, which looks a little something like this. Now, again, it looks a little bit daunting to start out with, but after repetition, you do tend to get the hang of it, and it works in the same process. I won't go through an ad today just because we did that last week. So if you want to watch that, just, feel free to watch last week's videos. But the same sort of idea applies. You've got the campaign, which asks you the overarching goal. Then you've got the ad sets that do your audience and your placement. So if you wanted to display on Instagram, but by default, Facebook advertising displays your ads on Instagram. and other channel partners. Like if you are running an app and you get those ads between the app, Facebook runs some of those. And then news articles, again, just like Google, they kind of affiliate with partners, but predominantly they do tend to advertise within the platform. And then you've got the ads, which is the look and feel, and sort of what you want to be advertising, which we can cover that in a bit as well. But that's how it looks like. Most people seem to have one, just that they're not aware. And if you ever want to log into it, what you need to do is you need to go into your page, then into Ad Center, and then you can go into all ads. And then if you scroll down, it says show more details in Ads Manager. It's very faint, it's in blue. I don't know why my screen is hiding it, but basically you get the gist of it, and that's how you can log into Ads Manager. Otherwise, you can go into business.facebook.com/ads manager, and then you can get onto your own Ads Manager. So I'll go back to the slides. Let me just share that again. Yeah, so basically what you have is the overarching campaign, what it asks to do. What would you like? Would you like your ad to be seen? Would you like to buy some likes? Would you like a booking, or would you like to have a sale? Then your ad group and ad sets responsible for anything within budget, your audience, and then your ad is the actual look and feel, just so you can get the structure of what an advertising platform sort of looks like. Now, in your worksheets, there's a funnel for your paid ads. And so the idea is to map out your journey. First of all, I like to take a step back and sort of plan it. So the first thing people do is maybe go, say if it's for a Facebook ad, they see the Facebook ad, and then I take them to a landing page, and that landing page has all this information and it's very specific. And so they sign up, and then they go to a thank you page to show me that they've gone ahead and registered. So, and if it's for e-commerce, for example, it would be something like people see the ad on Google, they then add something to the cart, and then from the cart they start to put in their credit card details, and once that goes through, then that's a purchase. So what you need to do is map out what your journey looks like, and the higher the sale, the more costly it will be. You will also have to look out for your competitors and see roughly what they're bidding, because sometimes some industries have a cost per click that's fairly reasonable, others have more expensive cost per clicks. Plumbers do tend to have on the more expensive side of things, as well as anyone in cybersecurity. That's another very expensive sort of cost per click advertising campaign. But one thing I like to do is just take a step back and plan ahead. Now, I don't know if you guys have any questions about anything I've said, but I would love to hear any questions that you guys have.
We're yet to have any questions in the chat box at the moment.
No questions? Okay. But roughly that's the idea of the advertising platforms. The other thing to note is that every sort of platform has them. Even something like Snapchat has an advertising platform, Twitter has an advertising platform, same with LinkedIn, and obviously Facebook, which you've just seen. So that's sort of the rough of it. And if there's no questions, I'm happy to move on. Now, I did touch on organic ads. Last week, we touched on how to post and schedule ahead of time so you don't feel like, oh, it's 12 o'clock, time for a selfie. So you can plan them in advance. But this is pretty much the more or less free advertising. Now, in 2017, Facebook did say that for Facebook and Instagram, everything's trending to be paid. So nowadays, the reach has gone down, and it's required, not required, but it's recommended for people to start putting in a little bit of budget behind their ads. My recommendation is $5 per post. And roughly speaking, if you want to be posting 2 or 3 times a week, that's roughly, and I said last week to choose 2 platforms and do it well, because more platforms means more work. But roughly speaking, you want to be considering to maybe have a spend of $100 to $200 a month of social media spend. It's not necessary, but it will increase your engagements and exposure. And now we're going to move on to SEO and Google Ads in a bit. But this is, as far as Google goes, Google My Business would be your organic platform, and forming those sort of, especially if you're a physical location, it is so essential that you get yourself a Google My Business account. What you'll do is you register, and then in 6 days, Google will send something through the mail, not an email, but physical mail, and they'll send you a code so you register your business. It takes about 6 days, but lately it's been taking around roughly 2 weeks. So just be prepared for that. And then, like I said last week, with your social media platforms, make sure you choose the ones that are appropriate for your business, that they're appropriate for your time, because you don't want to be spending time doing content when you've got operations to run, and to do 2 or 3 at the most of your most preferred methods of social media. So that's what I mean with leveraging your social media. Find the ones that work for you, not that you're just constantly feeling like you need to pump out content. And my golden rule is that, yes, you've got people recommending you to post X amount of times on one platform and X amount of times on the other platform. But what I always say is that quality trumps all. So it's better that you get one amazing quality piece of content, be it a video, image, or blog, in a month, rather than 30 so-so looking things in a month. So it just, quality is your best friend when it comes to social media. So anything that relates, the closer that you can relate to your customers, the higher your engagement. And when it comes to finding your platform, one key thing that I recommend is to have a look at the competitor research. So have a look at where competitors are situated and what they're doing and how much time is it taking them. One thing I always recommend is to avoid comparing yourself to the giants. They've got 20, 30 people in their operations. And it just doesn't make sense to sort of be competing on the same level. As a small business owner, though, one of the things that you could really take to your advantage is being personable and offering a very unique idea, something that competitors aren't normally doing. But one thing I like to do is have a look at the social platforms and see what's appropriate. You also want to be sort of ranking them maybe to the ones that are most similar to you, or even the aspirational ones. Oh, this is, this corporation, they've got 20 people in their marketing team, but they still have some good ideas with their content. So I'm going to have a look and capture that and sort of simulate similar content in the future. The other thing you want to be looking at is when are they posting? And I think I said this last week, oftentimes people are posting in the mornings, while people are having their breakfast, at lunchtime, and after people finish work. And often it's around 8 o'clock after people have dinner and they're probably watching TV and they're on their platforms. So I've got another worksheet in terms of choosing your social media platform. But if you've got any questions as well, I'm more than happy to welcome any questions into this chat.
So we did have one come through from Neva, which Sky has kindly answered for us. But did you want to maybe explain a little bit further about, so Neva's asked, did you say that Google sends you a code for your Google My Business? How does it arrive, by email or text? And then Sky's answered, it comes by snail mail to your business address. I love that. So did you maybe want to explain, how do you go about getting a Google My Business? Is it something they just apply for online, or explain a little bit further?
I can show you. Whoops. I'm just going to exit these slides and I'll go. If you Google My Business, it'll come up, and then you just Google, I think this one here. You can Google the first one though, but I think this one takes me straight into it. And I mean, I don't have a Google My Business because I'm not a physical location. I don't really want people sort of rocking up to my house for marketing. I mean, I just wouldn't be prepared. But you can apply for it, and you can sort of follow the steps. If I log in with another account, maybe I can show you. Ooh. No. But it's basically quite a bit of a process. You fill out your business, you fill out all your information, you add your photos, and you kind of tell Google what sort of business you have. If you have, say, a retail store, then you find the closest matching keyword. They offer quite a bit of a list of options, and so you offer that, and then you receive something via the mail, via snail mail, in about 6 days. Once you've registered, they give you like a 6-digit code, and then what you do to verify is you put the code in, and then your business goes online. So if you have a look at, I'm going to type in something like music school near me. So you get these sort of map ads, and they're free. And you want to be looking at things like putting in decent photos. And with Google My Business, it's all about your reviews. People just go crazy for reviews. So if you have positive reviews, make sure you like them. If they're negative, make sure you've got something to sort of say. Google likes it when you sort of comment, or say, sorry about that, please feel free to get in touch and we can give you something. Or they like it when you comment back. It just gives the business quite a lot of legitimacy. Are there any other questions, Courtney?
At the moment, that's all that we had in the chat box. We will be taking a deeper dive into Google My Business next week as well. So we encourage you to register for that session as well if you want to know a little bit more about that. But that's all the questions so far.
Okay, thank you. Oh, why is it not presenting? There we go. Okay, and the other thing I wanted to touch on is the buyer readiness, because some people might be unaware that a business like yours is around. And on the next level, even if they're aware, they're kind of shopping around, looking for different providers, seeing who has the best deal. And then the last level is when they're ready to buy. They're ready to commit to the next level. And so when you do your advertising or your social media ads, you want to be looking at how ready is my audience to buy. I had a coaching client that was doing buy these packages, and I told them, I said, well, I don't think that your audience is ready. You need to probably do something more up here to introduce them about your services before they decide to go ahead and buy. And so think about it in your funnel where people are situated. Otherwise, it can be not as effective. And the analogy I have, it's like someone you're going on a first date and asking them to marry you. It can be like that. It can have a lot of ineffectiveness. All right, and let me go ahead and touch on SEO and Google. So when it comes to SEO, what is it exactly? It's known as search engine optimization. The best way I can describe it, it's kind of like a race against time. It's a race to get on top of, be the #1 person to rank on Google. Because when people are searching for stuff on Google, they're actually 31% of people are more likely to click on the first thing they see. So that's what it is. And how it works is, imagine there's all these robots that are owned by Google. So Google owns all these robots, and what they do is they go and visit every single site in the World Wide Web. They just visit everything. And then they come back and they report to Google headquarters. And then they rank you accordingly to what you've put in. And so there's 3 types of SEO, or there's sort of 3 categories. One is your technical SEO, and we'll touch on the technical SEO today, but that's pretty much what you've displayed to the robots, because we'll talk about this in more detail. There's things that the human eye, it makes sense for the human eye, but for the robots, you need to do additional steps. Then there's being relevant. So how relevant are you? You know, if people are clicking on, let's say accountant, and then you come up as a lawyer, or when people click that, then you lose relevancy. Google can time you, and they time how long people stay in your page. So you want to be relevant as part of SEO. And the last one is, it's called domain authority, and it means how many people are referencing you. Google likes it when you're being talked about or people are referencing your site. So a site like Wikipedia ranks really highly because everyone's referencing Wikipedia. One thing that small business owners can do is advertise yourself in directories like Yellow Pages, or if there's one for your industry, then you can put your name forward, and then you'll rank higher because Google's gone, hang on, someone's referencing me. Why is SEO important? Well, it's free. You can also pay for someone to do it, but it's essentially free, and it has quite a high propensity of clients that are ready to buy from you. So it's not like, say, other platforms like Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or Snapchat, people are still sort of considering it. Google essentially answers a problem to the question. They have an answer, and so people are ready to buy. If you type in blue slippers, I bet you're pretty willing to buy some blue slippers. Like that's sort of the readiness. And so if you can do everything organic that you can in your power, that'll boost your sales up. So it is a pretty important aspect of digital marketing. And in the worksheet, I've got an SEO checklist. So you're more than welcome to sort of fill that in if you already know, but I'll touch on the things that I would look for in a checklist. So the first step to SEO, the very, very first step is keyword research. And so what are keywords? Keywords are sort of search queries that people type up. So just like I was typing up before for plumbers or for any sort of services or clothing items, that's the thing I search for. And so I've got a really fun activity, which is doing keyword research with a brave volunteer from the audience. So if you're willing to put your hand up, we can go through some keywords together. Let me just close this. What I have here is I've got this plugin. You can get it for free when you have an advertising platform on Google, but I really like this one. It's called Keywords Everywhere. You buy a couple of credits for about 10 US, so I think that's 15 Australian dollars, and they've lasted me a long time. They last me about 8 months, so it goes a long way. But you can also do this for free in other platforms. But just so I know, is there someone that's willing to do keyword research with me? Courtney, is there anyone that sort of put their hand up or willing to?
We haven't had any high hands up, but Sky, there we go. I'll just take your sound off. Oh, it's not. I think I'm just working out the sound. There we go. Thanks, Sky.
Hi, Sky.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Excellent. Thank you for being a brave volunteer. I know how sort of daunting it can be at times. But I'd love to know, what's your business or what's your industry?
We make custom printed and designed whiteboards, so it's fairly specific.
It is actually. I can't wait to research this. So I'm going to research something like custom design whiteboards. Would that be a keyword that's suitable?
Yeah.
So I can see here the Google ads, the shopping ads. I can see that it's very visual. And I can see that it's not very searched for during the month. So these are the monthly searches. This is the cost per click. So like I said, some industries have them higher than others.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how competitive it is. So if it's between 0 and 1 being very, very competitive. So here you've got some ideas. Similar searches would include Luxor magnetic whiteboard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's applicable to you or not.
Not so much. The next one down would be very applicable.
Custom printed whiteboard, Australia. Let's have a look. So I like to search for keywords that are higher than 100 searches a month for advertising,
Mm-hmm.
but that are lower than, say, the thousands or tenths of thousands. So somewhere in between there, you could get a good sort of advertising gap. So it's same here, not as keyword heavy, but something you could try is mobile whiteboard.
Mm-hmm.
That's very searched for. And then have your own flair that it's, it's custom made, custom printed.
We do things like whiteboard calendars and whiteboard planners that people use on job sites and things like that.
So whiteboard planner, oops, planner, not planner. Oh, I can't write today, can I? So the same thing. Funnily enough, whiteboard monthly planner would be more popular.
Mm-hmm.
With 480. Oh, someone's drawing on my page. Anyway, You got 480 monthly searches at 74 cents a click. So roughly speaking here, if I click on this ad, it will cost Righty Board 74 cents, give or take.
Mhm.
You also have Family Planner Whiteboard as a popular key or fairly popular keyword with 90 searches and 72 cents. And so what I like to do is I make a spreadsheet and I go, right, here's my keyword, here is the monthly volume, and here is my cost per click. And so then I make a list of all the different things, and then I tell you that. So you could have one on monthly planners, then you could look onto family planners.
Right. Okay.
And then mobile whiteboards.
And then how would you determine then a budget off that? Like, would you just go with the least expensive cost per click search term, or what would be the strategy around that?
Yeah, that it's such an interesting, and it's a good question. Sometimes when there's a readiness to buy, competitors are bidding more for it.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be more expensive from a clicks perspective, but it's definitely worth it from an ROI perspective.
Okay.
One thing you can do is you can test and learn. And the other amazing thing, I absolutely love this about Google. I'm just going to exit this, but they've got a forecasting tool. And I absolutely love it. It's so great. So this is a forecasting tool. So you can put here keywords like, not music, you could put whiteboard monthly planner. And you can put all these different types of keywords in. And then when you click on get started, you can put your estimated cost per purchase. So it would be an average of, say, all the monthly planners that you have. And Google does a calculation to see if your ROI is worth it or not.
Okay.
And that's a lot. I do a lot of that in my advisory session. So if you are interested in your particular case as to how that looks like, we can come up with keywords together and put them through the forecasting tool to then find out, because in some instances, Google can be very lucrative and profitable. And in other cases, even though the business is great, it's just not workable because you've got to take into account the cost per click, shipping expenses, and inventory costs. So that's something I would sit down with you and look into great detail through an advisory session.
Okay.
But I hope that sort of roughly answers your question.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you so much for volunteering again.
It's okay.
Great, so I'll move on. And while we're at it, Courtney, are there any questions in the chat box?
Yeah, so we did have a couple come through during that section. So Rebecca just asked, do you have suggestions for how to encourage your customers to provide a review?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. One thing that you can do is on Google My Business, you can create a URL. And I'm sure in the Google My Business presentation, they'll show you how. But you can create a URL and you can send them an email asking them, can you please send me a review? Or a lot of the other times I've seen, you can entice people. So like say if you're a cafe, you say, oh, we'll give you a free coffee if you give us a review. Or I know I stayed at a hotel one time and they said, you can get, I think it was, oh, I can't remember. You can get this much money off if you give me a positive review. So it's sort of building up that brand, or not just an honest review.
Great, thank you for those tips. Another Rebecca, so how did you, so her connection dropped out. How did you sorry, let me start again. My connection dropped out. How did you find related keywords pop up on the Google search?
Yes, so that's the Keywords Everywhere tool that I have. So this one's a paid one. It's not a lot of money. It's $15, lasts you a long time. But the perk about this is that I can search for all these sort of related keywords, which is great. It's kind of like the nerdy thing I like to treat myself to, you know. Oh, and another cool thing that I didn't show you is you can, with this tool here, you can have a look at the trends of things. So if I type in face mask, there should be, yeah, there's a chart. So see here, before COVID, no one was really searching for face masks. And then all of a sudden, poof, it's gone up to 18,300 searches a week during the peak of COVID. And then now that it's down, it's still a bit higher than before, but definitely not as high as before. So you can also find like trends and patterns of things, especially if your product is quite seasonal. If there's like Valentine's Day or Mother's Day, like I know that florists make all their money or pretty much most of their revenue on Valentine's Day and Mother's Day. So if your product is also that seasonal, you can also find that those keywords that have a seasonality to them. But yeah.
Yep. And then Neva asked, how do you get the Google review URL?
Yeah, so it's inside Google My Business. And I'm sure you'll have another session where they'll cover that, but you can make like a URL and sort of send that to other people.
Okay, great. That was all the questions that we have in the chat box at the moment.
Excellent. Oh, and just a disclaimer as well. Some people don't have their account, so people need to be logged into their account for them to give you a review. Some people don't have that, and so it's about sort of finding a way to log them in. It's not the easiest sort of platform to get reviews from. But if you can walk your clients through the steps, that should be okay. Otherwise, if they're already logged in, just sending them that link would work as well. All right, I will move us along. So now that you've discovered keyword research, and this is what you do for advertising as well, but also for SEO, you find out how many people are searching for your term. And the cool thing about it is you never know until you Google it, or you never know until you do the research to it. I've had clients that have come in and they've said to me, I'd like to look for this keyword. And I just sort of think, oh, that's not going to have many searches. But to my surprise, it has a lot of searches. And then vice versa, I think, oh, that's going to be great. It's going to have lots of searches. Nothing. So like I said, you never know until you actually start searching. And it's a great exercise as well to put yourself in your customer's shoes. Because I know for myself as a business owner, when I think about a product, I kind of get really into my language and jargon in how I do things. And so it's really nice to kind of separate yourself and find out what your clientele's looking for, which is really awesome. The other thing with SEO are your title tags and meta descriptions. It's just a really fancy way of saying the title, the blue title, and the description here. So when you do your websites, you can update all of this to reflect those keywords. After you've done your keyword research, you want to see, you sort of want to be ranking in those searches. So just like Sky's example, portable whiteboards, you want to have a look, portable whiteboard. You want to have a title tag like this and a description like this. I think you've got a limit to characters. So I think it's 70 characters on the title. And I think it's about up to 160 characters. It's not the end of the world if you go over, but what happens is, see here, your sentence kind of gets cut off. But the idea for getting your title tags and meta descriptions is so that you can rank. Like if it's one thing and one thing only you take out of this session, out of what I said about SEO, is to update your title tags and your meta descriptions. And then the next thing is alt text, which is really interesting. So what happens is, I'm just finding the present button, there it is. When, as a user, we can find out the images. Like when we see an image, we see an image. We go, oh, that's an image of a motorcycle. That's an image of a car. The Google robots don't exactly do that. So you need to have an additional step in your website to put this, it's called alt text, alternative text. It's also useful if you've got clients with visual impairments. A lot of people have a lot of red-green color blindness as well, and all sorts of things. So it's good to have that as an option. And you can update that in most of your sites, in the back ends of your site. If you've got WordPress, that there's an option there. If you've got Wix, there's another option there. But it's just to be mindful that the robots don't exactly see that image. You know, when you're logging into sites and they say, show me all the pictures of traffic lights, and you click on all the traffic lights, that's because the bots can't see that like the humans can. And then the other thing is, the human eye can see a heading. We see the heading by the font being bigger, or maybe it's in bold, or maybe it's a different font, but we can differentiate that. However, a Google robot can't do that. So what you need to do is insert that in the code. It's called a heading tag. Instead of it being your usual paragraph text, it's called a heading tag, and you can do that in the back end of your website. And you can make it look the same, but then the robot knows that that's a heading. And that would rank your SEO a little bit higher. So SEO is pretty much differentiating yourself as to what a human looks for and what a robot looks for. So when you think about it, a human looks for a nice, simple, clean website with good navigation, nice images, great text, engaging content. What does the robot look for? Title tags, meta descriptions, like we talked about, the alt text in the images, and the heading tags. So it's just a matter of supplying, sort of meeting both needs. Because when you have an article, you are not only, or a website, you are not only doing it to your reader, you're doing it to the robot as well. So how do you sort of merge both? And in that worksheet is that SEO checklist that you can have a look at and tick off as you go to boost your website and make sure it ranks higher on Google. And the other thing is, I think it's 90% of searches are on Google. I mean, Bing has its own SEO, and all the other search engine tools have their own version of SEO. But yeah, Google has such a massive monopoly on it all. Then you've got Google Analytics, which you can install in your website, and that just measures how much traffic's come in. Where has your traffic been coming from? And how long do they spend? How much time do they spend on pages? So it's really, it's great to have. It's free. You can install it. When you install your website, you can install that. And it's really good. You can, I think, enable audience demographics, so you can see the age ranges and the genders that visit your pages. So then you can also get a bit more of an idea of who's visiting, and are they your ideal client? Are they the people that are buying off you, or are they just sort of searching for stuff? And yeah. Another great way to find keywords that I forgot to mention is the Google Search Suggest. And you can enable that. Some computers have that enabled and some don't. But when you search for things, it's really great to have different options appear. I think I've got if I show you an example, let me just. So if we go back to whiteboard, here are all the different options for whiteboard. And because I've got that keywords everywhere, you could see the monthly searches. So just the word whiteboard alone has 14,800 monthly searches. And so you can find that with other things. What other, let's say education, if we type that out, then you can find that all the different sort of keyword searches. Now I'm finding back my slides. And ultimately, one SEO tip that I have as well is that content is king. So whatever you do, just make sure it's related to your audience. It's like what I say, digital marketing is very much a loudspeaker to what you've already got. And if your message is not there, then it's just not going to translate and it's not going to sort of reach your ideal audience. And the other thing to note, another simple thing you can do is check if your website is mobile responsive. People like it when your website is mobile, or Google likes it when your website is mobile responsive. Google can actually detect when you're in a website, you know, when you're pinching things to zoom things in and out, they will penalize you for that. So make sure you have mobile responsiveness. Meaning that when your website goes on mobile, it shrinks accordingly. And when it's back on desktop, it enlarges again. So one exercise that I have for you is to check that your page is mobile responsive. You have no idea how many people don't check that, and then find out that their website is just not legible online on their mobile device. And it's really important because more than 80% of your social media usage comes from a mobile device. So it's a very worth it exercise, because I know we tend to create our website on the desktop, but then find on mobile it's just not really looking the part. And I'm happy to sort of answer any questions. Courtney, have any questions come through?
Yes, so we had a great question from Carol. So her website has both product and services. Which would you recommend to do keywords on this diverse business?
Yeah, so I'd recommend for both, definitely. And Carol, what you want to be doing as well is separating your products from your services as well. So for whatever service you have one page for that particular service, and another page for another particular service. And then for your product to have those each separated and have each of their unique SEO on the page. So each of them should have their unique title tags and meta descriptions. And then for your overarching page, your home page, it should be all about the business name. And so when people search for your business name, that's where you rank. So I hope, Carol, that answers your question.
Okay, we had another question from Sky. So is alt text the same as image titles?
No, it's slightly different. Image titles is also a good thing to have for SEO. If you have image titles and descriptions, that's even better. But alt text has an option. It's I don't know if you've got Wix or WordPress, but on WordPress, it's on the bottom right. Or it says alt text. Now that I've mentioned it, you can't miss it. And any more questions, Courtney?
And that's all the questions at the
That's
moment.
all?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'll move on to a little bit about paid ads. Paid ads are usually great for converting mobile users and their mobile devices. So because most people are on their mobiles now, paid ads are also a great way forward, especially if you've got lead ads. I know that I said I was going to touch on this today. But something that would make a very successful ad is the call to action. So I know when people are posting, this is sort of a common trap people seem to fall into, to have different call to actions, like, oh, shop now, but also like my page and do this. What you want to be doing is making it so that there's only one call to action in every single advertising or campaign that you're running. The other thing you want to be looking at is your destination. So your landing page. When people go from Facebook to the page, what is it saying? Is it captivating them? Is it giving them more information? Call to action, which I've mentioned, and a compelling text and image. So in your funnel, when you are doing your ads, you'll find where the blocker is. So if you're finding that people are going all to your landing page, but they're not sort of signing up or making a booking, then there's an issue with the landing page. However, if no one's clicking on your ad in the first place, then there's a blocker within your ad. And so then that's when you need to start doing some research to make sure that there's a product market fit. Something I like to do is I like to interview people. As a small business owner, I like to interview friends and family and ask them, oh, this isn't converting. Why is it not converting? Can you give me your honest feedback? And then sort of rebooting it and revamping it and then launching it again. With organic ads, we touched last week on the posting schedule. So I won't go into great detail, but I can't stress enough how effective it is to have a monthly plan and then plan ahead of time, so that you're running your social media and not that your social media is running you. And have a look at what your competitors are doing. Sometimes it's good to sort of keep monitoring and keep your eyes peeled for what other people are up to and what ideas you can take from them, or just what they're doing in general. It's good to know what your competitors are up to. And then to plan the days, plan the times. If you're on Instagram, pre-plan things like hashtags. Plan your image dimensions so that they make sense. If you're on Instagram, you don't really want a rectangle image, you want a square image. Whereas on LinkedIn, I think you can do rectangle or square. But just have a look at the dimensions. We touched on this last time. If you ever want to have a look, just Google it online. There's all the different dimensions. We touched on some tools. We touched on Buffer, and I gave you guys a demo last week. Hootsuite, Plan Only, and Later. They all do the same things, but something I did forget to mention was Facebook has its own one internally called Creator Studio. So what you can do is you can go to business.facebook.com/Creator Studio. And you can go ahead and schedule posts. So you've got your Instagram and your Facebook, and you can go ahead and create posts and schedule them ahead of time. So you can choose your page. I'm going to choose this page. And you can put your text, your photo, and when to schedule it. And so that can save you some time, and it's also it belongs to Facebook, so you can do it for both Facebook and Instagram. But that's just another option there. And I've got a worksheet there on creating a posting schedule, and while you guys are looking at that, I'm also happy to answer questions. Courtney, any questions that have come through?
So we've got one from Carol. So she missed the list of posts, and then she's just got Hootsuite. Would you maybe be able to go back to that?
Yes, of course. So you got Hootsuite, Buffer, Later, and Plan Only, and then Creator Studio.
Okay, great. And Jessica also does a sort of a run through, as she mentioned, with one of the tools from the session last week. So Carol, if you wanted to go back and have a look at that session as well, might give you a little example of how that program works. But that's all the questions that we had in the chat box.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Courtney. Sometimes I also find that, I think I mentioned this last week, it can be a little bit clunky to set these things up. So just if you do want an advisory session on that, you're more than welcome to have one. It's just, you've got to do it one time and you've got to connect everything, but once it's connected, it's sort of good to go. It's just a little bit sort of fidgety to set that all up. That's just a heads up for all of you. Okay, and there's no more question. Again, I can't stress enough that consistency is key. And so the idea behind social media posting is to continuously be seen. And look, less is more. And in 2021, now they're saying that it's trending that less is more. And like I said, you're better off doing a quality post than doing 5 so-so posts. But other than that, I think that covers everything. I don't know if there's any sort of last second questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for being here. It's been great having all of you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jessica. If you do have any sort of final questions or thoughts for Jessica, please put them in the chat box and we can get them, as we do have a little bit of time allocated for Q&A. But don't forget, we do have one final session in this 6-part series that we've been bringing to you over the past month. So this will be a 1-hour session about everything that you need to know about Google My Business. So that will be happening next Monday. So we will also be sending out a recording for that. So if you can't make it live on the day, still register and we'll send you the recording. But it seems like we've gotten through all the questions that we had for today's session, Jessica. So thank you again so much for your time, and thank you for everyone joining. We will be sending out this recording in a thank you email as well, which you will receive over coming days. But if you do also want to book in a session with Jessica or any of our ASBAS advisors, you can contact the office or just send back a reply to the thank you email you'll receive in coming days, and the office will be in contact to organise a session for you. But thanks again, everyone. Thanks to Jessica, and we'll see you hopefully all online next week. Thank you.